Hello there guys, it's LazyBeast and today I've got for you a Season 1 Dragonflight gearing up guide. So you've had a busy couple of weeks at the start of the expansion, you've got as best gear you possibly can, and now you're going to replace that all that hard work within about 2 days. So let's go through how to gear up when Season 1 starts. So I'll show you on this screen the item levels that you can expect to get from the various levels of the raid and from Mythic Plus and from PvP, and I'll show you the charts on screen so you can easily compare the different levels of gear. So first of all, let's go through some gearing up differences from Season 4 of Shadowlands. So let's start with the raid. So whereas in the last few raids the item level has been increased for the last 2 to 3 bosses, this time with the Vault of the Incarnates raid, the item level creeps up slightly more gradually with the end 4 bosses, so the item levels are closer together, but there's still some progression for getting further in the raid, as you can see on this chart here. So these are the item levels you can expect to get from LFR, normal, heroic and mythic raids from the various bosses. Now note that there are some items considered very rare. Now these can drop at 6 item levels higher than the boss's normal item level loot, so keep an eye out for those. So with raiding, do bear in mind that the loot rules have changed now in Dragonflight, and with raiding it's now all group loot, so when something drops you'll be able to roll need or greed on it. There's no option to change to any other type of loot roll, so it means that you can need on stuff that you don't really need, stuff like that. This won't really be an issue if you're in a guild, but you could get some ninjaing going on in pugs, unfortunately. You're going to have to just see how this goes and see how it plays out, and if you do get a lot of feedback that this is not a good idea, then they probably will change it in the future, but we'll just have to wait and see and hope for the best. There's also no restrictions on trading now, so even if you get an item that is an upgrade, you can still trade it to someone else who perhaps needs it a lot more than you do, if you do want to do that kind of thing. Also, BOE drops from raids are now guaranteed to drop from lieutenant type mobs within the raid, so you won't get these randomly dropping off any old trash mob. So this is to incentivize clearing the raid fully, and it's also another guaranteed chance of some loot each clear, so it's worth clearing the full raid. It's just worth knowing that. So that's the important things about the raid. Let's go on to Mythic Plus. So here's the item level chart for Mythic Plus dungeons. Now note here that Mythic Plus dungeon loot scales all the way up to plus 20 keys now instead of just 15s. Also, even if you complete a plus 20, the gear that you get will be slightly behind the best gear that you can get from the end bosses of the raid on Mythic difficulty. And for PvP gear, what's nice about this is that the system works sort of similar as it did in Shadowlands. However, once you get a piece of PvP gear, it will always be at its maximum item level in PvP content no matter what. When you upgrade the gear, you only upgrade its PvE item level, so whenever you're not in any kind of PvP content. So for example, if you get a piece of Honor gear, that will be item level 340 at its base iLvl in PvE, but it will always be 411 when it's in PvP. So it's actually really nice for people that want to get just stuck into PvP straight away, and they'll kind of always be on the same starting point as everyone else. As for Conquest gear, this is going to start at 382 item level in PvE, and it will always be 424 item level in PvP. And you can upgrade Conquest gear item level all the way up to 408 in PvE, so this is quite nice if you do a bit of PvP and PvE, and you want to just fill in some slots that you may be missing a nice piece in. Now let's take a look at the weekly vault. So first of all, where is it? So if you go into the bank in Valdrakken at coordinates 5856 or ask a guard in the town, it's just on the right hand side as soon as you walk into the bank. Now remember that the weekly vault requirements for each of the 3 slots has gone down, so it only takes 2, 5 or 8 raid bosses to complete the raid section, 1, 4 or 8 Mythic Plus dungeons for that section, and for PvP it's 1250, 2500 and 5500 honor from rated games in the PvP section, so this is going to save you quite a bit of time each week compared to how it was in Shadowlands. You will still earn Valor from Mythic Plus dungeons, so you'll be able to upgrade your gear like that along the way, the same as you did in Shadowlands. Alright, so tier sets now. We're going to have tier sets, as you may have already known. So tier sets are going to work the same way as they did in Shadowlands, pretty much. You can get them to drop from the raid or from the weekly vault if you do a Mythic Plus or PvP gearing. Or you can upgrade an item to become a tier piece using the Forge. Now this is the same way again as we did in Shadowlands with the Creation Catalyst, but it's a slightly improved version of that. So you're going to get a weekly quest to go out and complete a goal. We don't know what goal that is yet, which will reward you with a charge of the Forge. Now for every character on your account, you can use this charge independently as you want to. So you get 1 charge per completion of the weekly quest. That grants a charge to every character on your account, so you can stock these up on your alts, and it will even apply to alts that you haven't already made yet. So if you make an alt in 6 months time, you're probably going to have like 30 charges of this catalyst, so you can just create as many tier pieces as you want to. But I do believe the system to craft tier pieces isn't going to be available from the start of Season 1. I think it'll be either 2 to 4 weeks behind the start of the season, so it's just something to bear in mind for the future. So another source of gear are the world bosses. Now these function as they did for the last few expansions. There's one available each week and they're probably going to be in a different zone each time, and they drop gear at 389 item level. So just something to clear each week. So another source of gear for people that don't want to do any Mythic Plus or raiding is the War Mode World PvP set. Now you may have already started collecting pieces of this set or even have the full set unlocked if you've been doing any World PvP in the first few weeks of the expansion, so you can buy this from Emberath at the Gladiator's Refuge in Valdrakken for bloody tokens, the currency that sometimes drops from PvP world quests or from the little flying ship that goes over and drops resources. That will give you a couple hundred bloody tokens each time you loot that, and I think you can do that once per day. And sometimes the pieces of this world PvP set will actually be the reward of a PvP world quest, so they're kind of quite easy to get. Okay, so as we know, professions are going to be a nice source of gear, but the professions do take a long time to level up, and a lot of the big juicy items are kind of gated behind renown for some of the recipes, and some of them will need materials that come from the Mythic raid only, so we're going to need to wait quite a while, because obviously the people that are crafting for the Mythic raiding guilds are going to be giving that gear to their raiders, so it's unlikely that they're going to be available to be sold or created through the work order system for quite a long time, and whenever they do, they're going to be very, very expensive. So you can bear crafting in mind as a source of gear, but it's likely that you're going to be after maybe 1 or 2 pieces of gear from crafting that maybe have like the perfect stats for your best in slot set. So don't forget about crafting, don't snooze on it, because you know, if you're struggling to get a drop to come from whatever source you need it to come from, you might be able to get a piece that you can go in temporarily, but it might not be at the max crafting item level. So just bear crafting in mind. If you do need a piece, you've got to say a slot that's at quite a low item level and you want a quick upgrade, have a check on the work order system and see if something can be made for you on that. And another one that you probably already know by now as a source of gear are the renown rewards. So there are some decent upgrades potentially from higher levels of renown. So with some of the renowns at level 16, you can unlock some 376 item level gear, and at level 22 renown, you can unlock some 389 item level gear. So if you're getting them right at the start of the expansion, some people are really farming these renowns quite high. Obviously these are going to be quite desirable upgrades, but if you're quite steady and slow on the renown, by the time you get to these renown levels, you're probably going to be able to have got the gear already at higher level from the other sources of gear that we just mentioned. So it's probably something you're going to maybe rely on as a bit of bad luck protection, so if you don't get an item from Raid or Mythic Plus, or you don't do those activities, then these are a nice thing to aim for, especially for any solo or primarily world content players. And another one to bear in mind that will be starting pretty soon is similar to the World PvP set, there's the Primal Invasion set that's going to be a good goal for solo players, or for those that don't do any raid in Mythic Plus or raid to PvP. It works in the same way as the World PvP set, pretty similar, and there's a nice set bonus tied to it too, which is going to be really nice for any world content players. Now you can buy the base set for Elemental Overflow, which is the same currency that we had in the Dragonflight pre-patch from the Invasions. The set starts at iLvl 359, and you can buy this from Mithressa in Valdrakken. What you can also do once you've bought the base set is take the pieces over to Rethelshi, which is just the NPC that's next to her, and upgrade the base pieces using Storm Sigils. You'll get both of these currencies when you complete the Primal Invasions that are going to happen across the Dragon Isles, again similar to how they happened in the pre-patch. So to upgrade the items from this set, it's going to take between 5 to 14 Storm Sigils for a single piece of gear, and you get the sigils by turning in a Primal Core that's going to drop off the main boss of the Primal Storm events. Now you can only turn in one of these different types of cores each week, so you're going to get 4 max per week, so it will take a long time to fully upgrade this set. The upgraded item level of the pieces is 385, which is just slightly lower than the normal raid item level. So again, not a massively desirable thing for anybody that is doing any kind of high content, but for solo players, it's something really nice to aim for. Okay, so those are going to be the main sources of gear, and the, obviously the high item level gear that you can get from the main 3 sources, the Mythic Plus, the Raid, and the Raid to PvP, going into Season 1 of Dragonflight. Obviously there's the other sources of gear that you probably already know by now, things that scale with your item level, so killing rares out in the world, looting the chests, and obviously things like world quests, and there's things like the rings from the Cobalt Assembly, which is pretty decent, and you can get that in around 2 hours to an hour and a half, something to aim for if you need a decent rink. And there's also the cloaks that you can get from the Rathian and Sibelian reps. Now you can grind this out, it's going to take quite a while just farming the keys in their area, but it's something you can do, if you've got nothing else to do and you can get a decent cape from this, then it's an option. Alright guys, so there it is, that's the Season 1 gearing up guide for Dragonflight. I hope you've enjoyed the video and it's been useful. Thank you very much for watching it, I do appreciate your time. If you have enjoyed this video, please leave a like on it and leave a comment if you've got any questions down below. And also consider subscribing to the channel for more guides and content for World of Warcraft from me. I've been LaserBeast, guys, thanks very much for watching and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.